So, part two, I guess. I didn't have much bottom dysphoria to speak of, namely because it was something no one really saw. But I guess, I don't know. I did have phantom dick syndrome, kinda, not really. I only thought about it once, probably. So, for me, where does this dysphoria originate? Does it stem from the incongruence between felt gender and physical sex? Was it because of my masculine interest and my hatred for my breasts that's what a guy would do, having discovered he was born in a female body? And when I say that, it reminds me of that one live-action Scooby-Doo movie where Fred and Daphne switched bodies, and the first thing that Fred wanted to do was touch himself. So that's kind of what I feel like. What would happen? A boy getting into a girl's body and be like, oh wait, wait a moment. But that was very short term, so it doesn't really mean much of anything. Anyways, so had I been a male soul born into a female body and realized, oh, whoops, wrong door. So my personal answer, I'll get into my more clinical one after this, but my personal answer is no, I was not born in the wrong body. My dysphoria stemmed from my false perception of masculinity and femininity, and like I said, I was a kid, I didn't freaking know. I didn't know what it actually meant. I didn't even really know what femininity was. I thought femininity was just screaming when the lights turn off. Being easily frightened, wearing makeup, wearing dresses. That's what I thought femininity was. And that's obviously so false. And I was so caught up in that belief. If a child is saying they're the opposite sex, yeah, so here we are. I'm caught up now to what I was saying before. If a child is saying they're the opposite sex, it's because they're searching for the path of least resistance, because their current path to them is too tough, and they don't want to do it anymore. Like, for example, I wanted short hair because I thought it'd be easier to handle, because I had so many tangles and I had lice, and I wanted short hair because I thought it'd be easier to handle because long hair gave me so much pain and suffering. I wanted to be a boy because being a girl seemed to have a lot of responsibilities, as I said, that I didn't want. I wanted something easy. I thought boys just live carefree lives. That's what I wanted. So I blamed my gender as a teenager on why I'd always been rejected by my peers throughout my life, and why boys at school wouldn't hang out with me, my problems at home and not being understood by my girl space friends and female peers, therefore not really liking them that much because of that, therefore thinking I was superior in my masculine traits, which maybe some of you might piece together, like how that really works, psychologically speaking. And boys staying away from me, for the most part, it gave me the false idea that being a girl just really sucked, which then fueled my self-hatred. So technically, I hated myself and not my gender. I firmly believed that the grass was greener on the other side, but living as a a make-believe young man, I wasn't actually one, obviously, for maybe 2.5, 3 years or something. I don't know the math again. I'm bad at math. I realized how actually challenging it is to be a male, the addition of being a stealthy trans person, which means, for those of you who don't know what stealth means, is when you're going out as a trans person and you completely hide the fact that you actually have the complete body and DNA of a biological woman or man. I ultimately learned that both boys and girls, men and women alike, struggle in their own unique ways. So there was really no reason for me to be like, ooh, the other side. Yeah. So no. Moving on to my clinical answer. Gender dysphoria stems from being gender nonconforming and experiencing significant distress over not being accepted for this. That's basically it. It's not an incongruence of anything. It's just being gender nonconforming and then feeling bad about it. because nobody accepts you. Anyway, so gender dysphoric people, myself included at the time, believe that being the opposite sex would make life easier because they want to do all the opposite sex activities without the resistance of other people. Gender dysphoric people believe that that being the opposite sex would justify their interest in the opposite sex's clothing, activities, and behaviors. With regards to sexuality, being with another girl as a girl is deemed socially easier to that person when presenting as a man because that is heteronormative, and people don't bully straight people for being straight, usually. Right? Gender dysphoria in this case, and in addition to what I just said, can stem from observing in others the rejection of homosexuality, as well as more pronounced as being bullied by peers at school and at home for being interested in the same sex. There are many other reasons why someone would experience gender dysphoria, but I'm not going to get into that because, I mean, there's plenty to dive into, but that's not what this video is about. So we blame ourselves for others not liking us. This is where it gets kind of deep in the psychology. Because as social creatures, we heavily depend on others to protect us and to take care of our needs, just as we learned from since birth that we depend on our parents for sustenance and protection. So we tend to put that blame on something we think we can fix and cure, in this case gender expression and sexuality, in order to obtain that protection. If others hate homosexuality, then we are going to think that that side of us is disgusting and needs to change. In order to be loved and accepted, we seek outside validation from others as opposed to ourselves. Even as self-sustaining adults, we forget how autonomous we are because we allow our childhood traumas to eat us up. Now, it's pretty deep, right? I hope so. So the conclusion of that paragraph is if there was no bullying, estrangement, disownment from family, and isolation from our immediate environment in any way, and only acceptance, I predict that absolutely no one would give a crap about their gender and sexuality. Nobody would freaking care. They would just accept it. So long as we continue to believe that the opposite sex has it better than our birth sex, for whatever means in our head, being trans will always look appealing. So that's my conclusion on that. I wanted to dig in to what gender what gender is in what people typically see gender as. That's what I'm saying. There we go. Gender is by and large seen as aesthetic and behavioral stereotypes, which includes gender roles. So women have long hair, and I'm not saying like this is what I believe should be the thing. I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, this is kind of how we like to use, I guess Zoomer talk or something to clock them as something. I don't know. Perceive you as automatically this gender or that one. It's not me. I swear it's not my words. Anyway, so yeah, women have long hair. They wear makeup, I guess. They wear dresses. They wear skirts. They care about fashion, looking and these are all with quotations, by the way. Looking polished, bodies hairless, but not in all cultures. It's varying. It's mostly in the Western culture. Behaves submissively, polite, compassionate, empathetic, and docile, is expected to be more mature than her male peers, get married and have children and take care of those children. I'm getting a workout, oh my gosh. And give up on her career or not even have one, focused on a tidy, beautiful home. Ugh. And so men, men have short hair, typically. They don't have much fashion to speak of, which I feel like is just generally true. They no makeup, most men just don't really care about what they look like. Most of them. There's obviously a large handful that care, but I'm just saying, typically, beards most of the time, acts aggressive, tough, and dominant, doesn't show emotion. Men are expected to roughhouse. I guess by roughhouse I mean they're just we're at the bar, let me beat you up kind of thing. Be immature, loudmouth, and take up space. Ambitious, career-oriented, protects the home and brings in the majority or all of the income. Oh, that's it. Those are the stereotypes. I say more. This is thought of as innate and just comes with the territory of the genitals. So, when it comes to gender theory, gender is believed to be an oppressive binary where you cannot deviate from the set binary. So some people have instead defined it as a gender spectrum. I'll probably bring up a picture of what they think the gender spectrum looks like, which then inspires the idea that there are more than two genders. The Native American two-spirit being one of them, and another one, I guess, being gender fluid or whatever. How the transgender community would describe the gender spectrum is that men can take interest in feminine things, while women can take interest in masculine things, or not participate in either feminine or masculine things, or create something new. Hence the huge acronym of the LGBTQA blah 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 blah. I don't know. At this point, it's like the number pi to me. I can't keep up. Deviance from the binary means you've just created a new gender, or you must be the opposite sex. For me personally, I do not see this spectrum, quote unquote, as a way to escape the binary and its oppressive, quote unquote, reigns on the populace. I, in fact, see it as reinforcing the binary, but being backwards about it. And so, offhand comment, but I can see how these people came to that conclusion, and I think it's a step in the right direction in a way. But let me let me explain and elaborate on other things first. Technically speaking, transgender individuals fall under the category of the strict gender binary model because they believe, as girls for instance, they must be boys when they are so aggressive with others. For example, love playing in mud and reject anything feminine because boys don't and shouldn't like feminine things, right? And you're so distressed about it, right? And then, boys can't actually be boys if they like makeup and hanging out with other girls, right? With this idea, we are being equally as strict as our grandparents, their grandparents maybe, and your own parent, whoever is influencing you with the gender binary. When it comes to their ideas of some quote that's probably been said a couple decades ago, and nobody says Timmy anymore, but just bear with me with the names. Timmy, the boys for girls, put it down. And Susie, bear with me, pants are for boys. You're a girl, you can't wear those. So when we millennials say Timmy's wearing a dress, that might actually mean he's a girl because boys don't wear dresses. It's as if our grandparents could not tolerate a boy wearing a dress because that goes against the binary. Therefore, they force him into medical transition, which Timmy may or not actually desire despite his gender dysphoria, which he could very well phase out of in his future given the time, which therefore satiates the binary and is deemed acceptable. So I wanted to explain my view of what gender really is, and again, I don't have any studies or anything. It's just I'm very extremely certain this is what gender is. It's not a feeling. Gender is just determined by your sex and sex chromosomes, which is in your DNA, which is something you cannot change at all whatsoever. Even that new science thing that's like in development right now, whatever the hell it's called. I'll probably put it up here when I get the word. But that thing, it's like yeah. That one, that's not gonna work. You have to be an embryo in order to, you have to be just a clump of cells in order for that to actually work, right now at least. But I did put it into other people's heads. Now it's going to happen. So anyway, gender cannot change. Gender is as static as your sex, and surgeries do not. Sorry, and surgeries do nothing to change that fact. Uh, so that's how I define it. And so people are largely confusing gender expression with gender identity. Gender expression is categorized as masculinity and femininity, which aren't innately and strictly sexed. There's masculinity and femininity within all of us at varying degrees, men or women. These are simply traits that men and women have statistically and habitually exhibited throughout history, reflected off the effects of testosterone and estrogen, as well as sex chromosomes. And I want to make it really abundantly clear that when I say that, I mean that gender is not a social construct. It's it's based off of testosterone, estrogen, and sex chromosomes, and it's we have these gender roles for a reason. It's reflected directly off that. But this is largely where gender roles were even based on, but it does not determine gender expression. People have deviated from the established norm for centuries because penis does not equal dominant personality, and vagina does not equal a submissive personality automatically. Okay, yeah, so in conclusion, here we go. While gender dysphoria is very real, and I definitely feel for those going through it, we need to practice restraining the urge to cut ourselves and our children surgically in the name of comfort and affirmation. And we need to practice self-acceptance, self-care, self-love, and not desperately look for it within others, which is, I would say that goes as a general rule of thumb. I believe the spirit of the gender spectrum is to free men and women from these strict stereotypes, such roles, which is a good thing. I think that's very good. Men and women should be able to express themselves however they wish without getting bullied and ostracized. But, to mess with pronouns and labels is not progress at all. It's, in fact, quite plateaued. We haven't even gone anywhere. We haven't budged with anything in terms of, social progress with gender roles. The real gender expression spectrum is what I'm going to call it now. It's a bit much. The acronym is GES, GES. Let's do that now. I'm going to make that one trending. Is whatever the hell you as a man or woman express yourselves as. Whatever you're doing as a man, that's what men do, though it might not be traditionally masculine. And then whatever you're doing as a woman, that's what women do, though it might not be traditionally feminine. If we actually want freedom from gender roles, we have to accept our sex and the masculine and feminine levels that we exhibit. So that was a lot. So yeah, I realize that that's I guess a lot to take in, and I hope it wasn't like super aggressive or anything, but yeah, I want to make it very clear that, like, if you're a woman with a lot of traditionally masculine traits, there's nothing wrong with that. You can be that, and you can like women, or you can even like men, or you can like both, and still be good as you are. You don't have to change your body in order to fit something that you think in your head is the right thing to do. Being the opposite gender does not, or sorry, the opposite sex, or whatever, I guess it doesn't really matter. It will not solve your problems. It didn't solve my problems. It didn't solve a lot of other detransitioners' problems. Because, really, like I said, it's just like the grass is not greener on the other side. And we should not be really paying attention to how good the other side have it and what other people think of us. And I think really, at the end of the day, that's what it just sums up to, is Stop caring about what other people think. I know it's easier said than done, but if you're younger than me, younger than 25, you'll understand eventually, hopefully. But yeah, no, getting older, it it works in your favor. Trust me. So I'll see you when I see you sometime, maybe later this week or something. I don't know. We'll see. I got things planned. Yeah, bye.